to the MPL Weekly. This is the show where we catch you up on what the pro players have been doing all week long. And I am so excited, friends, because this is week 5 of our Spark Split. I'm Becca Scott. I'm here with Eric Froelich and Marshall Sutcliffe.
Hey, hey, hey.
I don't know if you guys figured this out already. We have a real-life MPL player at our desk
No,
today.
not me.
Me.
It doesn't transfer through. It stops right here.
Me, I joined the MPL. That's
Yeah.
no.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. That would be amazing. But no, we have Eric Froelich, who was in our Pearl division, and we'll find out later today what happens with that. But a lot of very exciting things are happening here, all in anticipation of the Arena Mythic Championship happening June 21st to 23rd. We have a lot more to tell you about that. Oh, friends, what are they in for today? Excitement? Intrigue? Drama?
Yeah, we're going to see who advances to day 2 of the Mythic Championship. We're going to see high-level play. We're going to see great decks. We're going to have the best commentary in the world.
Absolutely.
With the hostess with the mostest. So
Yeah,
what are they not going to get?
This is super important, though, right? Because this is the culmination of this first split, and this is where we get to see who wins, right?
Yes.
Each of the people out of the 4 groups is going to actually collect their prize as of today.
Well, let's talk about our format of what the Spark Split is. So we have 4 divisions, each have 8 players. That adds up to 32, which is how many players are in the MPL. Now, over the course of these 5 weeks, which all ends today, these players have been playing each other within their bracket. The winner of each match of best of 3 gets 2 mythic points, and the winner of each of those 4 divisions will earn a bye to the top 16 of the upcoming Arena Mythic Championship. As we just mentioned, that will be at the end of June in 2 weeks. Eric, how big a deal is it to get a bye to the second day of the Arena Mythic Championship?
I don't know that I could even overstate it if I tried. It is massive. It's massive. Like, we are looking at, 60 top players. Everyone's going to be attempting to get into day 2. You're going to have to play about 9 rounds of Swiss, or maybe you go 6-0, you just advance right into day 2 there. But that's 6 wins against the best players in the world that you already have locked up. And so I know I've been playing Magic for 25 years. I've lost sleep thinking about how big this would be for me to try to get this buy into day 2. And I've been, I'm active on Twitter. I see Paulo Vitor Damarosa, one of the top 5 players in the history of Magic, saying the exact same thing. I am stressed out, losing sleep, thinking about how big my match is this week. Brad Nelson is shaving off parts of his hair that he didn't intend to, because that's how hard it is to focus with this much on the line this week. I mean, I think it's hard for me to, express just how big it actually is for someone who is not necessarily there. But I'm trying my best right now. It is tough. It is important. Again, it's like when you look at a Grand Prix and you see how big just a single buy in one of those long events is worth, this is like getting 6 buys in a giant tournament. There are only 16 people left between you and hoisting that trophy. I mean,
let's see who is in contention for those 4 top spots. So here you can see our 4 divisions, and all have somebody in contention. There's a front runner in each division. Obviously, the Pearl is the best division. We can see that. Yeah, because Eric, you're right there near the top, and you are still in contention in the Pearl division. Because not only, we should talk a little bit about tiebreakers, because obviously if you win the most matches, then yes, you will be the winner of your division, but everybody can see these numbers are very close. So tiebreakers, we got 2 of them off the bat, and more if it comes to that. The first of which is, if you need to go to the first round, it's total games won within your matches in this Spark Split. So that can narrow it down. And then beyond that, it's the combined match wins of your defeated opponents. So what are we looking at? Who's still in contention in some of these? And specifically, I'm looking at the Ruby, because those are the games we're going to see first today.
Right. For the Ruby division, just like basically any Magic tournament you go to, whether you're playing in a Mythic Championship, a Grand Prix, your local FNM, whoever has the most match wins is in first place. That is, the end-all, be-all. That's what matters the most. So, we've got multiple players who are in contention to get the 6 match wins. Ken and William kind of leading the pack there. Now, should they finish with the same number of match wins, as Becca just stated, we go to game wins. And that is, going to come down to the matches you lost. Because, of course, in each match that you win, you'll have won 2 games. So, if they both finish at 5-2, we know that they've got those 10 game wins from the 5 matches that they won. But then the 2 matches they lost, that's where that really comes into play. So if you lost 2 games to 0, that's no game wins. You lose 2 games to 1, you've got an extra game win right there. So it turns out because of the tiebreakers, Ken actually has the edge over William. So if they end up tied, if they both end up 6-1, they both end up 5-2, Ken has the tiebreaker over William. So what he's going to need to hope for is Ken to lose his match this week. If William wins both of his matches, he'll get the 6 wins. Ken will be at 5. He'll have the division that way. If Ken ends up tied with William, they're both at 6-1. Ken's the winner. And then if Lucas wins both his matches and both the players finish at 5-2, well, we've got a nice 3-way scrum, which I assume will go to some kind of 3-legged race, or we'll find out. We got the fine print. We'll go check out our lawyers and see who wins the tiebreaker.
Yeah, is a 3-legged race. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get into the first of these that Jensen has to win to be in contention for that top spot. So we see here a little about the players. Jensen and Berthoud have both been playing for quite a while. A lot of top finishes for Jensen, but you guys told me earlier that top finish for Berthoud was a big one.
Oh yeah, top. One Pro Tour top 8, now Mythic Championship, and he was the winner. So very impressive run that he put on.
And let's just check through their decks here. We have Jensen's Mono Red Aggro deck.
Yeah, worth noting here that these are the same decks that the players were playing last week as well. So they've been practiced with it, but also, they were locked in.
It's also partially so that you can't meta your opponent too much if you narrow down who you haven't played yet, right?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and you still have a general understanding of, you have a couple opponents left over the last 2 weeks of who you might be playing, so you can do a little bit more of that than you might normally see, but it does make sure that you don't have just a very specific targeted deck in that regard. And William Huey Jensen decided to go with the mono red deck. It's served a lot of players well in the MPL. Not an uncommon deck choice here.
Yes, and now let's see the Gruul mid-range from Berthoud. What's unique here?
So this is almost identical to the
Yeah.
deck that I played. The only difference I made is I played an extra Lightning Strike in my main deck and then cut the Lava Coil. That went to the sideboard. The other 59 cards we had in common, so this is a deck I'm pretty familiar with. You're looking to get out and get aggressive. For this matchup against Mono Red, it's really going to be important for Berthoud to have his bigger creatures kind of come into play. He's got some good cheap removal to answer some of the early threats, and then he can play things like Skargan Hellkite, which, as a 5/5 dragon, there's no easy answer for a red deck. They usually have to spend 2 cards to deal with that. His sideboard, he's going to have some important extra removal spells, and cards like Thrashing Brontodon, which are just have a lot of toughness, so they can block things like Goblin Chain Whirler. They survive Lightning Strike and Wizard's Lightning and Shock, and then also they can kill Experimental Frenzy, which we saw as a key card in Jensen's deck.
Yeah, it seems to be one of the few removals of an enchantment that you can put on the board there.
Right.
All right. Well, this is going to be very exciting. I hope that we see a lot of contention in this division, and this game is going to determine whether that comes the way we hope.
Yeah,
Or-
I mean, this is huge, right? We've got Huey Jensen here playing for his life. I mean, he's trying to put himself into that position. So.
Right. If he wants to overtake Ken, he's going to have to get some wins, and it starts here.
Absolutely. All right. Well, in just a few minutes, we'll have the game ready for you, or we might be ready for that now. We'll see. But you're really rooting for this Gruul, right? For all the Gruul decks out there?
I mean, these are 2 fantastic players who are honestly 2 of the best people. I mean, one of the nice things about being in the MPL is that we've spent a lot of more time together. And so getting to know, William, we've lived together. We've known each other for decades at this point. And Lucas is someone who's definitely newer to the professional scene. Of course, he came out and just won a Mythic Championship. And getting to see him more and how involved he is with the Magic community in Brazil, and just one of the best people I've ever met. Like, I am a huge fan of his.
Oh,
like,
so
this
cool.
is one of the people that I'm absolutely rooting for in all of his matches, because I want to see him do well. Him having this platform is fantastic, because I think that he loves Magic as much as anyone I've ever seen, and he's such a good person.
Aw, everybody I've met seems to be an amazing person in the
I'll
MPL.
tell you about the ones who are not, but
Okay, we'll talk about that after the broadcast. But right now, we have the game between William Huey Jensen and Lucas Esper Berthoud.
All right, let's get into things here. Eric, what jumps out to you starting? Is this a keeper for first things first?
This is like a totally borderline hand. Now, having 4 lands in your mono red deck is not necessarily a bad thing. You want to get to Experimental Frenzy. You want to, make your land drops afterwards, cast a bunch of spells. But, he doesn't have that in his hand. He doesn't have Light Up the Stage in his hand. It's a low power hand. Now, having an early drop is nice. Having a way to kill something like a Llanowar Elf is nice and shock. But it's not an exciting hand. It's probably too good to send back, though.
Now, what about this one for Lucas?
Lucas's hand is really interesting. Llanowar Elves is the most important card in most matchups, but against Mono Red and on the draw when you could be facing a turn 3 Goblin Chain Whirler, and it's very likely to get burned because every burn spell in the entire deck is going to kill it, it's a lot weaker, and the Immortal Sun is very close to a mulligan in this matchup. Now, Huey does have 3 copies of Chandra in his deck, so shutting that down is nice, but the odds of getting the 6 mana, especially when it means your Llanowar Elves have to live, it's so low.
All right, well, we're underway here. Gitu Lava Runner kicks things off for William Huey Jensen. He attacks, gets in for the 1 point of damage, has the option of light up the stage, declines it at this juncture, passes the turn back to Lucas.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting for him to decline the light up the stage. I don't think it's a play that you would ever see from a less experienced player. Of course, William Huey Jensen, one of the best to ever play. And he really wants to find Experimental Frenzy. And so his concern, I believe, is that if he casts Light Up the Stage and finds Experimental Frenzy, he won't be able to cast it and it'll just go to waste. And so with cards like Shock to be able to burn his opponent to make sure that Light Up the Stage is going to stay turned on, he wanted to make sure that if he's able to find a Frenzy at any point in this game, that it's going to hit the battlefield. Because in the main
And that's what he did here, by the way, because so now he got Fanatical Firebrand, attacked for 1, did fire off the Frenzy, and that's going to set him up for next turn. It would have let him cast that Experimental Frenzy if he had it. Excuse me, Light Up the Stage is what I meant to say. And but he did hit Runaway Steamkin and Shock.
Yeah, I mean, he hit a couple spells. The Steamkin is one of the best cards in the deck. I mean, there's already a Domri in play, so it does get a little bit weaker because any creature fighting a Steamkin will generally kill it. But, you know, Huey has the answer. He's able to double shock, kill the Domri, continue to get in for damage. And yeah,
that's what he's going to do. So Domri down, and you take 1, Lucas Esper Berthoud down to 17 life. But if you look at William Huey Jensen's hand, he kind of is in that position where he wants one of his 4 drops ASAP. He's down to just Wizard's Lightning in hand, so he's effectively out of gas at this point. And with another mountain off the top of the library, all he can do is fire off Wizard's Lightning on the Legion War Boss, get in for 5 damage after playing his land. Now, this is still a fine position to be in, but this is the point where with the land, oh, tough one there for Lucas Esper Berthoud. He may have been able to start taking over this game. Instead, he's going to have to settle for Growth Chamber Guardian, just sitting by itself.
The Growth Chamber Guardian, when you can't activate it against a mono red deck, generally not where you want to be. But as we can see, Huey doesn't actually have, any of the burn spells in his deck that could have taken this thing out. I mean, as little as a Shock, not really a great exchange generally. But, Huey doesn't have the answer right now. The problem is he's really behind the 8 ball. I mean, this Runaway Steamkin just as a 4/4 is huge. Bertuzzi's already down to 6 life. So now Lucas is going to main phase, get another Growth Chamber Guardian. It gives him a 4/4 in play. But this 4/4 is going to be forced to trade off with the Steamkin. And Lucas is going to go down to 3 life, where just about most of the spells are going to be lethal.
Yeah, there's Experimental Frenzy. Not technically lethal, but it should put the nails in the coffin here in game number 1, as on top of the onboard advantage that he already has. Wow, he found Chandra as well after using the mana from the Steamkin, so he can do Chandra and still have 2 mana available as well. He finally misses there. He uses Chandra to clear away a mountain off the top of the library, but that revealed another one, and that does mean that Lucas Esper Berthoud gets a little bit of a reprieve here. Takes no damage for the turn, but boy, things took a sharp downward swing for him that turn anyway.
Right, he gets a bit of a reprieve, but what is he really hoping to do? Like, he's going to play a Domri, he's going to get another creature in play, but he can't ever kill the Chandra because that damage alone will kill him. So he's looking at the Immortal Sun, which then just turns off his Domri, and Experimental Frenzy's in play. There's no answer for that in the main deck for Gruul. There's Thrashing Brontodon after sideboard, which, is nice. It's a 4 mana answer. It's not particularly effective, but, a very good card. And, yeah, there's just no way to get this Frenzy off the board, and he's just not very many damage away from winning this game now.
Right, and of course, being green-red means that he doesn't have a way to deal with Chandra Fire Artisan that doesn't include somehow dealing damage, air quotes, to her loyalty, and that will kill Lucas because of the Fanatical Firebrand on the battlefield. Although now that I say that, Huey's going to use it to finish off the Growth Chamber Guardian that had fought. And so it's gone, but he finds a Runaway Steamkin and a Goblin Chain Whirler, and look at this. There's another Experimental Frenzy on top of the library. He's going to use Chandra to clear that out of the way and find a Shock off the top of the library. This is going to kill the Growth Chamber Guardian, and wait, there's more. There's a Light Up the Stage as well. He can fire that off right now if he would like. He's going to go ahead and do so. The Runaway Steamkin is now lethal in conjunction with the Pyromancer. So, great turns there for William Huey Jensen, lining up lethal. Oh, sorry, I spoke a little bit too soon. The Steamkin has sickness. Yeah, my bad. But still, now you can see he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards exiled. And he has continued to go off here. There's a G2 Lava Runner that is almost lethal. And with the Firebrand, that is finally enough, is it not? 2, 4, 5. And plenty enough. So, wow. I tell you what, Eric, the red decks don't play out in the late game the same way that they used to, do they? Where you just top deck a lightning bolt and hope to get there. He played like 7 cards that turn.
Right. I mean, I was going to say before the flurry of spells happened that if he had, just a Chandra, this game would be kind of interesting. Maybe the Immortal Sun's able to fight back. If he had just a Frenzy, well, he's probably got it locked up, but there is some likelihood of hitting, a glut of lands or spells that are not high impact. If you're able to find 2 mountains in a row or Mountain Fanatical Firebrand Mountain where you're not impacting the board greatly, then Lucas had potentially a fast clock of just with Domri in play pumping the power of his creatures and multiple Skargan Hellkites, he could have ended the game in 2 turns. Well, Frenzy didn't even give him 1 turn. That just happens to be how that game ended up playing out. So, I mean, with just Chandra alone, it looks like Lucas actually would have had a good chance of winning that game. With just Frenzy, well, he still would have lost, but it would have at least given himself a small chance. And now we see, the issue that Lucas had with his first opening hand, that cards like Llanowar Elves are, very susceptible. Like Goblin Chainwhirler is a real thing. And so he's looking to go low on, at least one of his mana creatures. Now that he's on the play, Llanowar Elves is certainly much better. Like if you're able to get out ahead, cast, you can cast a Rekindling Phoenix off your Llanowar Elf before your opponent's able to Goblin Chainwhirler it when you're on the play. When you're on the draw, that's not possible. Paradise Druid, though, does become a little bit weaker where you're, kind of looking at maybe 1 use max before Chainwhirler might be online.
Okay, well, Lucas is going to have the benefit of being on the play here.
Oh, he mulliganed something.
He did. Huey's kept his, though.
Yeah, Huey's hand is pretty close to what you want. An early Steamkin, the good removal spells. Lava Coil coming in out of the sideboard is huge. Rule Spellbreaker can be a real issue for the red deck, especially game 1. This is one of the matchups where you're very rarely going to play it as a 3/3 haste creature, just because 4/4 is so big. In a lot of matchups, you're looking to just play it as a 3/3 haste creature, because over the next several turns, the 3/3 haste is going to do more damage until your opponent's nearly dead, where a 4/4 would matter if you had to wait a single turn to actually use it.
Huey Jensen is going to turn 2 play G2 Lava Runner and then Wizard's Lightning to take out the Growth Chamber Guardian on the other side of the battlefield before it can even get activated. But the tail of the tape here is not looking great for Lucas Esper Berthoud. He's missing land drops once again, taking damage. And as you can see, while Jensen is a little light on lands with only 2, he has plenty of castable spells in his hand, and there's land number 3 to basically unlock the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no answers left for the Steamkin, which, as we saw last game, can kind of run away with the games pretty easily.
That's right. There's the Gruul Spellbreaker. Finally, land number 3 for Lucas. He's going to put that +1/+1 counter on it, but it's immediately going to get Lava Coiled right out of here, which is going to open up the way for more damage and a +1/+1 counter on the Steamkin here for Jensen. Bang, you take 2, and he's going to light up the stage right now. And look at that, he hit 2 misses. He doesn't have a target for the Lava Coil currently and can't cast the Chainwhirler this turn, though he can next turn.
Yeah, I was going to say, very interesting, using the Lava Coil did free up Bertuzzi's Rekindling Phoenix in his hand. Of course, he found another one off the top with the light up the stage, but he can't cast it this turn, so Lucas will correctly just play the Chandra, let it take a couple hits, soak up a little bit of the damage potentially, and then Rekindling Phoenix, there might not necessarily be an answer for. It does look like Huey now with Lightning Strike and Goblin Chainwhirl in hand, he's 1 land away from being able to use that combination to remove a Phoenix permanently. He's also, on the offensive. Chandra's going down. Huey's going to take a little bit of damage here.
Land off the top of Stomping Ground now for Lucas. Leaves him with 2 options. He can cast Rekindling Phoenix, or he can play an untapped Stomping Ground and take 2 damage to get that Skargan Hellkite online. He's going to take the slower route, tap land, stays at 15, and plays Rekindling Phoenix before passing the turn back. But as you can see in Jensen's hand, he doesn't currently have a clean answer for the Phoenix.
Yeah, the biggest issue
with
with
the
the
Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Be good. There we go.
The biggest issue with the Phoenix right here is that it doesn't actually block the Chainwhirler. I mean, you can block it, but having just an egg left behind, a lot of good ways for the red deck to profitably deal with that.
Yeah, and as it turns out, he did draw the land off the top of the library, with which unlocked access to both Lightning Strike plus the triggered ability from Goblin Chainwhirler to clear away the egg, as you put it, Eric. He's also astutely using that runaway Steamkin to make sure that he can cast all of his spells this turn. And look at this board state he's developed. That Steamkin started out as a 4/4 this turn. He was able to leverage its ability to cast all his spells, and it's still a 4/4 when it attacks.
Yeah, that's just
It's just nasty. And this is going to be game number 2 going to William Huey Jensen, and that was a bloodbath, I have to say.
Yeah, Lucas stumbled shortly.
Oh, I think there was a little audio there at the end of the gameplay. That was exciting. Wow, okay, so Jensen's still in it is what we learned from that.
That's right. Yeah, he as we mentioned on the earlier stages of the show here, is up against it. He's got to win both of his matches just to try to keep himself in contention if Ken is to win his match.
Yeah, and must curse Ken so that Ken
yes, he
has
needs to
at least a loss in there, or at least a couple losses. I'm not sure exactly.
Right. He has one match left. I mean, Jensen can only do what Jensen can do, and that's win his matches and then hope.
Yeah.
Well, no, he can curse Ken.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
you can
work
hire
on
a
your
deck and put a curse
spell
on.
or-
Work
yeah,
on your curse
exactly.
game, right?
Yeah, that's the other part of magic. You
Yeah,
have to
probably
work on
not
that.
a good positive outlook
Sure,
on
well-
life, but it might be effective. You know, I'm not going to judge.
Yeah, to the pagans in the audience, they're offended that you would
Yeah.
disrespect their magic.
That's right. That's right.
Just kidding. We're a wholesome show here, and we're proud of all our MPL players. They're all playing fantastically, and that was really cool to see those clean, fast wins from Jensen.
Yeah, that's how he draws it up, right? I mean, the red deck looks to do exactly what we just saw. Some stumbles from Lucas Esper Berthoud as far as mana goes, but they were fully capitalized on by Huey.
Yeah, the matchup's certainly close, and Lucas had to mulligan both the games and was a little bit behind. He just didn't have an answer when the Steamkin came down, and then we just saw the card advantage of cards like Light Up the Stage, Experimental Frenzy, Chandra, all 3 of them, and it's just too much. Once you fall behind just a little bit, the red deck doesn't really give you a lot of time to catch back
No,
up.
it does not.
And
It's
if you let
very
those-
unforgiving.
The Steamkins go running away unchecked. You're done for when
Yeah.
they've got that mana. All right, now we have another game with Huey Jensen again here, and we have Jessica Stefan. So she is one of our newest players in the MPL. Here are their stats. It's going to be Jensen's mono red aggro once again, and Stefan is playing Dimir control. So what do you think about this matchup and one of our 2 newest players here?
Jessica has a number of cards in her deck that are going to be really key to the matchup, and you're looking at cards that have high toughness that can come out early enough. We're looking at something like God Eternal Kefnet as a 4/5 creature, just very tough for a red deck to deal with.
Well, let's peek at Huey's deck real quick, and then we'll get to Jessica's. So we just saw this play to great effect.
Yeah, I mean, Huey is playing a red deck, and so he's going to look to play cards on curve and burn out his opponent while using Experimental Frenzy to keep up a flow of cards.
Thanks for the one-on-one. Okay, now let's see that Dimir control. All right, and we'll see that Kefnet you were just mentioning, the third one in there.
Yeah, and the key cards on this slide are very key in this matchup specifically. She's got 4 copies of Enter the God Eternals, and being able to both kill a creature and make a 4/4 and gain 4 in life. Each of those things is fantastic. You look at some of the other early creatures she has in her deck, like Augur of Bolus, that can be a great blocker against something like a Viashino Pyromancer or any of the creatures in the deck, Fanatical Firebrand, and they're just not going to get through a 1/3 creature. So having to spend a burn spell on a 1/3 that only costs 2 mana and might have provided card advantage as well, it's just a really strong thing. Now, she also has a number of expensive cards that there may not be time for, but a lot of her early game helps build to that late game. And so this deck has a lot of game against a red deck as long as she can find those key cards and make her land drop. She's got to be able to play cards on curve because the red deck is punishing. Like, if she falls too far behind, it's going to be hard to come back, but she does have those Enter the God Eternals. So those are cards that can allow you to come back, but they cost 5 mana. So you got to be alive, and they've got to be effective at that point.
Yeah.
We saw when Lucas got to 5 mana, there was 4 creatures on the board, and he's at 5 life.
Yeah.
Not really going to help all that
little
much.
too late.
Although
yeah.
Enter the God Eternals, they're killing a Steamkin and making a 4/4 and going up to 9. That might have, potentially swung the game there even. So that card is huge in the matchup. She's got 4 copies.
She's got to be stoked for that, too, because last week we saw her play against Ceviche, and he was on Simic Nexus, where those cards did not look good.
Yeah.
And, she took a hedge in what is the right direction. As it turned out, the most popular deck for this last 2-week stretch has been mono red. So, she'll be happy to have access to the 4 copies of it. Last week it was like, come on, Simic Nexus, really? Right. But now she gets to kind of, pull out the big guns here.
Yeah, I mean, the blue-black deck, the advantage of playing that over something like Esper, which we've seen a lot more of, is that you don't have cards like Hero of Precinct 1, which just die to shock. You have better mana so that you're not taking as much damage from your lands, and you should more consistently be able to play out all your spells. And so that's really big against the red matchup, and we'll see how that plays out.
Absolutely. Well, we're ready to see that now, so let's hop into the game.
All right, let's get underway here. We're going to be sitting on Jess's side of the table to take a look at what she's looking at now. She knows the matchup, and she's kept this double Watery Grave. A little clunky to start, but nothing terrible there. Also, she has that Tyrant scoring in her opener here, Eric, which looks like nice in this particular matchup. On the other side, good curve here from Huey.
Yeah, I mean, having a turn 2 Augur Bolus is nice. Of course, it's not going to help her find lands. She's definitely looking to hit her land drops, because Vraska's Contempt is also very good in this matchup. It doesn't deal with Experimental Frenzy, and so, of course, that thing gets down, it gets out of hand. Big problem, but it does deal with Chandra, and it does deal with any of the creatures on the deck and gains a little bit of life on the side. So she's going to be looking to hit her land drops and hopefully get out ahead before a potential Experimental Frenzy, which we can see is already in Jensen's hand, might come down.
Yeah, it's brutal because she's just going to have to pay the 2 life here to get this Charter Course going to try to find more lands. And unfortunately for Jess, she actually doesn't. She finds Negate and Thought Erasure. By the way, you'll notice that there's no game sound effects here for this particular match. We're aware that that was just part of the recording, so don't fret. We know it's okay. Ooh, there's Cry to the Carnarium off the top of the library, but still no land to cast it currently, and no, that Augur of Bolus will not help you get it either.
Yeah, I mean, Thought Erasure might help her find it. I mean, it certainly will get her a little bit closer. It's also, coincidentally, we talked about Experimental Frenzy, and the Charter Course found 2 potential answers to Experimental Frenzy. So that's certainly nice to find. She's got an interesting decision here of whether she wants to take the card that's putting pressure on her next turn, or whether she wants to take away the card that, will have the most impact should the game go long, and that's Experimental Frenzy. So you see her kind of debating what makes the most sense to do here. It's not an easy decision. I mean, she's going to need to hit lands. He's going to need to hit lands. She's got a lot more of them in her deck. See one on top here.
Well, she decided to take Shock away, it seems.
Yeah.
And she did find a land and put that on top of the library. I thought she might take the Pyromancer there if she wanted to worry about the most immediate threat. I suppose the Cry of the Carnarium is leading her away.
Yeah, I mean, the Cry is certainly a reason why you want your opponent to cast a Pyromancer this turn. Of course, you have a card like Augur of Bolus to help protect your life total against some of these creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could just be thinking that, burn spells down the road is how she's actually going to lose this game.
It's definitely possible.
And she has... the thing is that she's going to have to leave up Negate for the Experimental Frenzy for basically the whole game.
Yeah.
So if Jensen were to play a land this turn, it would really put her behind the 8 ball kind of for the entire game. You want to tap out to cast your Cry of the Carnarium, well... Experimental Frenzy could come down next turn. Now, Jensen did not find the land, so makes the play look a lot better for sure.
Yeah, so big swing here for Jessica. She's going to hit that land drop thanks to finding it off of the Surveil last turn. She left that swamp on top of the library. A nice untapped land here for her to fire off Cry of the Carnarium, and 3 creatures go into exile. Now, she also draws Thief of Sanity off the top of the library, so having taken that shock away, it has a pretty decent chance of surviving. And look at this, Jensen has missed his land drop again, and he has to just run that thing in there. It looks like Jess, though, was like, I'm going to call. I'm not going to let you bluff me here.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of ran the full bluff, but it's kind of a weird spot to be doing so, because if he were to find a card like Shock or Lightning Strike, he could have just used one of those to kill the Thief of Sanity, gotten in that guaranteed damage, as opposed to, if he had one of those instants in his hand and just fired it off at Jessica, well, that would have traded for the Thief of Sanity, but that's not really what he wants to be. He'd much rather have, killed the creature and just gotten in for 2 damage there. So
yeah, and she figured that out too and snapped off the block. So
yeah, there's no combat tricks. We're not playing booster draft here where he might have +2/+2 effect. We have the deck list, and it can only be these burn spells, and honestly, none of them made sense for him to have and play that way. So she correctly deduced that this is a spot where she has to block.
Smart block too, by the way, because it's really tempting to just let that through if you do have a Thief of Sanity, recognizing that it's only 1 damage and how important the Thief of Sanity can be to your game plan. As we see, because she is now well and truly running away with this game, Jensen has once again missed his land drop. And by the way, while missing lands, he's drawing 3 and 4 mana spells, so it's really not going well here for Jensen in game number 1. And Jess has really turned the corner with these 2 copies of Thief of Sanity, just ripping apart his library.
Yeah, I mean, he got punished a little bit by going for the attack, because he no longer had a creature to threaten to deal damage with Light at the stage in his hand. But it kind of felt like one of those situations where if he didn't cast Light at the stage that turn, that the game was probably lost anyway. And so, it makes a lot of sense for William Jensen to then go for that and just kind of cross your fingers that, your opponent makes a mistake. Because I think that's really what it would have to have been at that point, that it was very easy to deduce that this is a spot where I have to block, and so it would kind of be an out-and-out mistake to not block, but she correctly found the play.
All right, so Jensen's going to start sideboarding it up here after game number 1 goes to Jessica. She Again, was up against it a little bit as far as mana goes.
Right.
She missed a land drop and then had to kind of dig for one. But after that Cry of the Carnarium, she hit her 4th land, and the 2 copies of Thief of Sanity well and truly locked up the game there. In the meantime, we're going to see what Jensen thinks about this particular matchup.
Right. One of the interesting things is Shock, a card that she took out of his hand with Thought Eraser that would have been great against Thief of Sanity. I think the thinking here is just that Thief of Sanity is just not going to be in her deck anymore. It's just not particularly good in this matchup. It does die to Shock, and so you're kind of planning ahead a little bit that, maybe those Thieves won't be in. We see that they are still in. I mean, he's got plenty of other answers to it. It's not really a big deal that you can't gain that huge mana advantage by being able to Shock a Thief and there's no other targets in the deck. But definitely interesting that she's choosing to keep those Thieves in on the draw because they are quite slow.
Yeah, they really are, and they don't, necessarily block particularly well.
Right.
So yeah, it could be tough. Now she's kept another 2-lander here, but this one looks pretty good. She's got a Negate, a Thought Erasure, and there's a Watery Grave off the top of the library. Plus, if she is able to hit her mana and survive, she has the 4-drop Vraska's Contempt into the 5-drop Enter the God Eternals for a lot of removal plus life gain that can really get her right back in this thing. So turn 2 Thought Erasure from Jess on an empty board, 2 lands in play for Jensen, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're able to be on the draw and cast a Thought Eraser before your mono red aggressive opponents cast a single spell, it's a great place
You're
to
in
be.
a fantastic position. Now,
So-
Chandra, of course, is the biggest long-term threat here, but with Jensen with 2 lands, he could cast a Goblin Chainwhirler next turn.
Yeah, none of these cards are super threatening. I think the card that'd be most threatening to me is the Direfleet Daredevil, of having that come down, Thought Erasering myself. Goblin Chainwhirler is fine. But at the end of the day, it's a 3-mana 3/3. I mean, it gets a point of damage in, but we're playing a blue-black,
she's not
mid-range
blocking.
deck.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. It's also a perfectly good target for Enter the God Eternal, so not a card I'd be worried about at all here. I have Vraska's Contempt. Next turn, I can just Thought Eraser again, take whatever the biggest threat is again. And so that would be my thinking there of then being able to untap and cast Vraska's Contempt on turn 4 after getting a couple surveils in.
Now, she did have to surveil Kefnet to the graveyard there, which I'm sure she was a little bummed about, but she knows what's up. She needs lands, and that's the name of the game at this point. So now she has to decide between Thought Erasure or keeping up Negate, and she's going to go for Thought Erasure. That'll allow her to play Watery Grave tap this turn and still stay at a cool 20 life. So now you can see the draw step, though, for Jensen was Experimental Frenzy, the most problematic permanent that she could see on the other side.
Right. There's not going to be a clean answer for Experimental Frenzy in her deck. And because she's now tapped down, if he's able to find a 4th land and that Frenzy were to enter the battlefield, it could be a huge problem. It's the most likely way for her to lose this game, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
So in a
Has
lot
to
of ways,
take
she's
it.
just kind of forced to take this Frenzy here. I think still a little bit punished by having that Daredevil stay in hand, because now if he's able to find a land, he's able to Thought Eraser her back, maybe take her answers to these creatures or the Chandra. But Jensen's not able to find the cards he needs when he needs them.
No, he did find Light Up the Stage off the top of the library, but somehow missed lands again. He's stuck on 3. And it looks like Jess has decided to go into full control mode here. She's got Vraska's Contempt and Negate at the ready. Does not run out Thief of Sanity. She says, I don't want you to just kill it off immediately.
And no land again.
And another missed land drop here for Jensen. This could easily fall apart now for him, as now she can cast Thief of Sanity and keep up Negate to protect it.
Right, but there's a Shock exile from the Light Up the Stage. So in this case, I certainly would not have cast the Thief of Sanity this turn. Let that Shock kind of go to your face, go to 18, and you can negate the Lightning Strike if you want to. You probably just let the Lightning Strike take down your Thief, in all honesty.
Wow. This is actually a huge swing back in Jensen's direction. Not only does he take care of that Thief of Sanity, he gets Legion Warboss on the battlefield, which is going to demand an answer immediately.
Right. Unfortunately for Jensen, Jess has the best answer.
Yeah.
She's got make a 4/4, kill your thing, go up to 23 life if she wants to. She could just play the Thief and leave up Negate if she wants to. Both those options are totally fine. You're taking a bit more damage because the War Boss can attack and, can mentor onto one of these tokens. You probably take down the smallest token with your Thief. The one that's forced to attack next turn. Although she doesn't even have to attack with that one, now that I think about it. The War Boss can create a new token. You can just attack with those 2 as 2/2s.
That's right.
So not a great spot to be there with Thief.
But
of course,
as you mentioned, she has the answer in hand, so she's just going to take the easy way here and say, you know what, I'm just going to kill your Legion Warboss. Here's Direfleet Daredevil, though, for Jensen, and we know that there's a Thought Erasure in hand, so he can use that to help clear away the answers that Jess has. Vraska's Contempt, Negate, and Thief of Sanity in hand.
The way that her draw is lined up, though, she now has 2 answers for the Chandra because he can't actually cast it this turn. So, he can take the negate, but then the contempt's still there. He can take the contempt, but she's probably going to be able to leave up negate for as long as she needs to at this point. Getting rid of something like negate is very nice because he could draw one of his 3 remaining experimental frenzies. I believe he's up to 4 after sideboard, but that's still not very likely. He gets a surveil, so a little bit more likely than normal for a red deck to be able to find that experimental frenzy, but far from a lock.
So he took the negate away, leaving her with Thief of Sanity and Vraska's Contempt in hand. With a land off the top of the library, though, she can just kind of have it all here. She can cast both of them. She's going to leave the 4/4 back, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I
hit
spoke
with
too
the
soon.
thief
Sorry, she's considering attacking, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, not having any answers to experimental frenzy now feels vulnerable, but yeah, very reasonable to just kind of hold back and see what happens.
So here's that lightning strike from Jensen to kill the Thief of Sanity. It does leave the 4/4 army token on the battlefield, though. He's got Tybalt, Rakish Instigator to follow up, so that'll give him a 1/1 Devil, and also prevent any life gain, perhaps, from the Vraska's Contempt.
Right, she actually has a fair bit of life gain with, Vraska's Contempts and Enter the God Eternals in her deck, so definitely a useful effect.
There's a cast down off the top of the library. She can use that to kill any of the creatures on the other side of the battlefield, but it looks like she's content to...
Yeah, I think she's going to attack the Tybalt here.
Okay. So send it in, especially with cast down and Vraska's Contempt in hand, it's hard for this to go disastrously wrong. And it looks like Jensen's just going to say, okay, do something.
Well, what Jensen's doing here is he's saying use the Vraska's Contempt. Get that out of your hand so I can resolve this Chandra without any opposition. Unfortunately, she found another removal spell, which means he loses his whole board. The Devil's going to deal 1 point to Jessica, down to 22. Not super exciting there.
Pretty good spot to be if you're Jessica. And, of course, she maintains that 4/4 army token on the battlefield. Lightning strike off the top of the library there for Jensen isn't going to help him out at this point. Does he just hang on to the Chandra? Yes, he does. He's going to pass the turn back. Let's see if Jessica can draw something great.
So what the Lightning Strike does do here is it can kill this army token. So now, Jensen can block with the Devil. He can still deal the 1 damage to Jessica and then end step fire off this Lightning Strike, finish off the army should he so choose. And now the board is clear. They both are on just complete empty effectively because the Chandra is very, very much answered by the Contempt. At some point...
This is great.
At some point, Jensen can find another Direfleet Daredevil, potentially, to take the other Thought Erasure to get his Chandra online. He could find an Experimental Frenzy and maybe just win the game. Or he's just looking to find maybe another land drop like he found in his hand so that he can cast more of the spells in his deck so he gets a little bit of extra value. So drawing something like this Wizard's Lightning means that's just going to go into exile.
Right, but this did give him a chance to try to find something. And look at that, Vraska's Contempt off the top of the library, but she didn't cast it. Now she's going to go ahead and fire it off, it looks like. I mean, she really can't sit there and let Chandra do her thing.
Right. I mean, this is kind of for Jensen a race to find Experimental Frenzy. It's the best card by so much.
Oh man!
Just giving him more looks at it.
This is great.
It could spell disaster.
It's just like they're at even footing, roughly speaking. I mean, Vraska's Contempt can take down, a planeswalker or a creature threat, but it's another land off the top of the library. Let's see if Jess can find it. Both players have so many haymakers in their deck that they can hit at this point, but it's just a land for Jess. Is that a... Yeah, okay, Legion Warboss
is good.
Probably means that she needs to fire off the Contempt here. Did she get a stop in there? No, she didn't.
It looks like she tried to set a stop.
Yeah, that's tough. The way it works on Arena, of course, is it goes directly to combat there. If you play in a Mythic Championship, there's actually a rule that says you have to, verbally tell your opponent, I'm going to be...
That is also our rule for MPL Weekly.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we're on the exact same rules apply. So you do have to announce to your opponent that you're going to cast a card like that.
Yeah, she just didn't get it in time or something. Then I guess.
Oh, she might have clicked the wrong button, but I'm not sure. I don't know the buttons particularly well.
Yeah,
myself.
I couldn't tell you.
I'm not going to pretend I do.
Yeah, I thought she was messing with
clicked,
it. But let's see if that ends up mattering here. Particularly, it does end up with Jensen with an additional 1/1. Which can certainly matter. Though at this point, with 20 life, it doesn't seem super brutal. Here is Direfleet Daredevil. Now, there's one unknown card in hand for Jess if you're sitting in Jensen's seat. Do you fire it off and use that other Thought Erasure? Or you can do something that control players have been doing for a long time, which is wait to use your hand disruption spell to try to clear the way for something else.
Yeah, it's a tough call.
It's
You
the
know,
surveil 1 also matters.
right? Yeah,
here.
I think that might be the thing that sets it over the top. In all honesty,
Yeah.
is that if you don't hit, at least you are getting that surveil, and he's just trying to find experimental frenzy. If he waits and casts it, let's say he finds frenzy next turn and then goes for the daredevil play, he can't actually cast the frenzy. So that means Jess could then draw her own thought eraser and negate off the top and still answer it. So it's not necessarily great to wait.
There's what she wanted, to cry the Carnarium to clear up this board. And now we're back to square one. Both players top decking. It's a Gitu Lava Runner off the top of the library for Jensen. That's going to get him in for 2 damage, but Jess has a lot of answers. There's an opt. That could help dig for something great. Duress isn't what she wants. Puts that on the bottom. What does she draw? Another Duress. Oh, no. Empty-handed. Jensen is basically never going to do it. And look at this. Chandra Fire Artisan off the top of the library for him. This could be the opening that he needs to take control of this game. And there it is. Runaway Steamkin exiled with Chandra, so he'll be able to cast that this turn as well. And now all of a sudden the window's very short here for Jess. And it's another land. She is flooding super hard now.
Yeah, Duress
She's
is
got
not going to stop at the
11
top of
lands
the
on the
library here.
battlefield. Yeah, terrible top deck for her. And you know how this goes. Drawing 2 cards a turn effectively for the rest of the game for Jensen means that he is well and truly in the lead, and he may be getting away with one here. This did not look good for him. Remember, he's down a game in this match.
Absolutely.
And there's another land. Unbelievable. Jessica Estefan flooding out, and Jensen hanging in there to take down game number 2 and keep his hopes alive here in his division.
That was exceptional. Like, I mean, those games usually go to experimental frenzy for him to be able to find, this time Chandra helped, but honestly, it was just Jess's draws not cooperating down the
Not
stretch.
at all.
I mean, the Chandra provided, a few extra damage, which of course is always nice, but it didn't really take all that much because once the red deck gets going, if you don't have the answers, it's going to kill you really quick.
That's
2/2
right.
haste just deals, 6 damage over 3 turns. That's just a lot. If you guess, Pyromancer is going to also deal, 6 damage over just a couple turns. And so, your life total goes from 16 to 0 pretty quickly.
That's right. Wow. It's so brutal when you draw opt, which is a great draw at that point, gets you, and then you put a Duress on the bottom and draw a blank Duress anyway. You just know it's not your game. But we do have a game number 3 underway here, so let's get going and see if it's going to be William Huey Jensen to keep himself alive for his division, or if it's going to be Jessica Estefan playing Dream Crusher. She's got a 2-3 record coming in, so she's not live to take down the division, but hey, this is in the spirit of competition, and she's playing a Thought Erasure here on turn number 2.
Yeah, Huey's got a really slow hand, but with all his powerful cards. And so looking to set up a bunch of card advantage, even Tybalt's going to be quite a bit of card advantage. And she's got kind of a good hand to answer all of that, and that a bunch of kind of slow-ish answers with a couple discard spells, a couple removal spells, and a negate kind of lines up really well against this hand. Huey's got one of the hands that you really want to see.
Yeah. It's funny because she really hemmed and hawed about keeping that second copy of Negate on top of her library, but you look at his hand, Negate answers any of his 3 threats currently,
Yeah, Negate's
and
good.
she has a Duress and another Negate, so this gives her answers for all of them. Now her hand answers his hand. And it looks like Jensen is just drawing a bunch of lands here as well. Looks like it may be his turn to flood out. No, there's a lightning strike off the top of the library, though not necessarily what he wants here. And he's just going to have to brute force it with no way to interact with your opponent's hand. He's just like, well, start running out frenzies.
Well, he knows Jessica's hand more or less, in that she's cast multiple discard spells when Jensen had 4 lands in hand and experimental frenzies.
And
So-
didn't take them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know that there's answers to them. I
No,
think it
good
was definitely
point.
an interesting decision not to take one of the frenzies on a couple turns ago when she took Tybalt instead, when she would have still had negate mana up. Definitely interesting. I guess she wanted, him to waste a little bit of extra mana. Could have gotten punished pretty hard if maybe he found a Chain Whirler that turn instead of this turn.
Yeah, she was playing with fire there, right? It's really tempting to take those frenzies anytime you get a chance, but I think her thinking was, well, I've got them all answered, right? I'm going to be able to answer any of these, so I'm just going to go ahead and let him keep them. And that has worked out so far. Experimental Frenzy number 1 has been countered. The other one is still in hand, though, for Jensen, but here's Gitu Lava Runner, and as you mentioned before, Eric, this is the type of card. Ooh, Thought Erasure punishes Jensen for keeping that frenzy in hand. But yeah, this Gitu Lava Runner it does need to be answered as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, every threat kind of matters at this point.
Right. I mean, and she's got multiple answers to a Get to Lava Runner in her hand. They're just inefficient, kind of slow, clunky answers that you're looking to kill multiple things with. The thing is, Jensen is aware of the cards that are in her deck, so he's got the option of whether he wants to put out more threats into play or maybe wait around a little bit. He's going to choose that, 2 damage a turn is really not going to get the job done. Do not blame him in the slightest, but
Right.
you're kind of opening it up to something like a Cry of the Carnarium that she has in hand.
Right, so she fires that off, gets the 2-for-1, but here's Tibalt, Rakish, Instigator off the top of the library, and she's having none of it. She's going to go ahead and cast Negate on the Tibalt here. Now, we are down to, though, the option for Jensen to draw one of his 4-drops, and he could resolve it if he does. Instead, it's Gitu Lava Runner off the top of the library, hits the battlefield, and knocks Jess down to 12, but she finds an answer off the top of her library in the form of Cast Down. So the players well and truly exchanging punches here, and not a bad draw there for Jensen. He finds Light Up the Stage.
Right, that's one of the best draws in the deck, and we're looking at a game that's been very similar to the other games we've seen.
Yeah,
and
it's
that
great.
both the players are very close to on empty, and wow.
Ooh, there's
Frenzy.
Experimental Frenzy, so he can fire off Lightning Strike here. And look at this, no answer now from Jessica for this Experimental Frenzy coming down next turn. And, well, we've seen how this goes. Jensen just runs away with it.
Yeah, I don't.
Can he hit a land here? Oh, he did. That's going to give him even more options here. Direfleet, Daredevil.
He
Is
even
there a
gets
one-drop
duress.
on hand?
There's the duress.
Oh, the duress. I forgot about the
This is going to take the one answer to allowing the War Boss to get out of control a little bit in the finale of Eternity. That's a big draw off the top. Is that the only answer in her entire deck to an Experimental Frenzy in play?
I think so. Destroy target permanent. That's one or more colors, and she is right back in it.
Yeah,
Jessica
that War Boss,
Estefan. Yeah, the War Boss is a major issue. So as we know, this Legion War Boss applies a lot of pressure and does so very quickly as well. She's going to fall down to 7 life here after the attack and lose Ugin.
got
She
one
needs
turn.
to find something right now. Oh, and she finds the Ender of the God Eternals off the top of the library. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, 4 spells hit the graveyard too for Jensen, including Chandra, and she is right back in this. Jessica Estefan at 11 life and a mountain off the top of the library for Jensen. He can only play it and go, and another good draw now for Jess as well. She's got Thief of Sanity to start generating huge amounts of card advantage.
Yeah, those were maybe the 3 best cards in a row. Oh, whoa, Fight
Whoa,
with Fire.
Fight with Fire. Oh, man, he's even got the 9 mana, but she's at 11. So
And
close.
Well, this still does it. I mean, it kills both the creatures in play and deals the rest to
this
Jessica. She's going to be
huge
on
top deck.
very close to a 1-turn clock here.
That's
I mean,
right.
It's not lethal next turn, but going to 1 life against a red deck is going to be tough to come back from.
My
She's going to need
God,
another
that
big rip.
Fight with Fire was insane. Now she draws God Eternal Kefnet, which technically keeps her alive, but she needs Jensen to miss here. And he finds another Fight with Fire off the top of the library. Jensen with runner, Fight with Fire to win the match. Wow. One good top deck deserves another, as they say in the business.
How
And
about
Jensen
5
says,
good top
I
decks?
agree.
Oh, absolutely. What an exciting game. I gasped when she got that Enter the God Eternals right after Ugin.
Wow.
Oh, not right after. There was some more in there. But wow, what an exciting game back and forth at the end there.
That was hard mode for
That
Huey
advantage
Jensen.
bar just went.
Yeah. It looked like ping pong ball going back and forth there.
Yeah, my brain was exploding. That's kind of...
Wow, so Jensen picked up the 2 wins he needed.
He did. So he's still in it, in contention for running away with Ruby and getting to that top 16 of the Arena Mythic Championship. So good for Huey.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Wow, that was insane.
And he's locked
Very
up to
good
12
showing.
mythic points any way you look at it. I mean, he's going to be, of course, cursing Ken. Hope that it comes through and getting that buy into day 2, which is just worth so much. But a fantastic split. I mean, 6-1 is phenomenal.
Absolutely. And now I do really enjoy watching Jessica's deck and the way she plays it. And nice piloting there. But this is what's going to show us what happens in this split, because we're going to see Yukihiro's game and how he does about against Yane Mikkonen, who maybe has a tough time with this Civic Nexus deck he brought, because he joined at the same time as Jessica, and they both in week 4 caught up on the rest of the matches, but because of that, each of them had to play with one deck for all 7 of their matches. So that does make it a little more difficult, or if you choose the right deck, then that's great.
Yeah, it looks like he didn't, because he's 1-3. I don't know how good Civic Nexus is against the particular field that he has here, but it's a it's a polarized pick, right? It's kind of taking a shot at the field, and it looks like it hasn't worked out super well for him.
And probably not ideal against the mono red.
Yeah, it's not the matchup you'd want to see first off. I mean, you've got ways to win. You know, you've got some early creatures that can come down. You've got, of course, big threats. Hydro Krasis really is the big card in this matchup. You know, being able to play a big Krasis, gain a bunch of life, draw some cards, maybe cast a couple Nexus of Face to just kind of win the game through that method. But, you know, Nissa and Tamiyo, which are fantastic cards, there aren't a lot of answers for them on the other side of the battlefield. Not really all that good against the red deck, and so this is definitely a tough matchup.
Yeah, here's his sideboard for Yane.
Yeah, he's got some good sideboard cards, some bigger toughness creatures. The Grazers are pretty good here to allow you to get out ahead of the mono red deck a little bit, and they're fine blockers as well. Thorn Lieutenant, you know, if they're able to answer with a Lightning Strike, you get a 1/1 out of the deal. If they don't answer it, you've got a nice sized creature at 2 mana. Thrashing Brontodon, an answer to Experimental Frenzy, and just a pretty big creature. You know, all of those cards are pretty good against the red deck, but you've got a lot of kind of mediocre cards in your main deck, and none of them are amazing. They're all just kind of good.
And here's the mono red deck again, but from Ken Yukuhiro
The
this
old
time.
4x20 here.
Yep,
4x20,
4x4.
beautifully done. An artist. And it looks like no Chandras in Ken's deck. They're in the sideboard there. Just one.
Just a single copy. I mean, Experimental Frenzy is the most powerful card in most matchups, and you know, some of our players have opted for a mix just because if they have answers for one, they might not have answers to the other. If you're able to draw one Frenzy, one Chandra, it's going to be better in most games that you play than if you were to draw two of either one of them. But yeah.
And in that first game from Jensen, we saw the magic when they are both on the board together with no
Right.
answers to them.
Yes, both of them run away with games pretty well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, we have that game ready for you right now.
All right, let's get into this thing. This is going to be a big one because this is Ken. If he can win this match, that's a division.
Yeah, he locks it up. So, I mean, it's got to be high pressure for Ken Yukuhiro. He's been there before.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, this is a matchup that he'd like to see, though. Mulligan into 6, of course, is something he'd never like to see. He's going to keep this one, though, and he's playing against Ceviche, who's on this Simic deck. Now, well, he's got a hand here. He's also running that Hadana's Climb, but in this case, he's just going to be running out Llanowar Elves on turn number 1. It probably will die. Oh, Ken didn't kill it.
Yeah, he actually had to draw a forest just to be able to deploy that Llanowar Elves on turn 1. He didn't actually have the turn 1 green source, so a good
What do you
find
think of
off
this?
the top.
Bolt the bird, never mind.
Yeah, there's kind of a lot of birds in this matchup, and a lot of them have more than one toughness, so having the Goblin Chain Whirl in hand means that Ken wants to have that be his answer for Llanowar Elves and use the shock for, you know, something like Incubation Druid.
Okay. Well, in this case, it's going to be Growth Spiral on turn number 2 and an Incubation Druid as well. So 4 mana used up here from Ceviche. So he is going to lose that, though. As you mentioned, the Shock's going to take down the Incubation Druid, and the Chain Whirler's going to kill the Llanowar Elves, and that looked easy.
Yeah, that was a dream scenario.
That
for
was
Ken.
beautiful.
He was able to use all his mana still, and that he was able to play a 1-drop creature and use the shock during Ceviche's end step, and then was able to use the Chain Whirler to remove the other creature in play. So just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, does not get permanently punished in any way for letting that Llanowar Elves survive for that turn cycle. And look at that, Experimental Frenzy number 2 goes into hand for him. A little flooded on those at the moment. He doesn't have the 4 mana to cast either of them, and he's just staring at a Lightning Strike besides that. Looks like he's considering attacking with both and using the Strike to kill the Ranger. That would get him in for 5 damage here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of merit to getting in the damage while you can.
And what are you saving the Strike for, I guess, is a good question.
Exactly. Like a Nissa next turn would be a great thing to be able to strike down, and especially the land. If you're able to get through with the creatures to then kill the Nissa, that's a nice exchange. But, you know, you're getting your opponent down to a pretty low life total pretty quickly.
Also interesting that he could just go to attacks here and let blocks happen, and then if Ceviche decides to block the Jadelight Ranger on the Lava Runner, he could Lightning Strike his face and make a trade. Usually you want to keep your repeatable damage sources, but there's a lot of options here.
Right. I mean, making that play would mean he's getting in 1 extra damage with the Lightning Strike versus the Lava Runner, which would be for 2 anyway.
And
so
you get to keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping the Lava
But
Runner
it looks
would
like
do
he's
it 1
decided
point.
against all of those other options, no matter what they were, and just going to hit with the Chain Whirler.
Right.
So we're going to see a Hydrate Krasis. What are we going to see here? No. Yes, we are going to see a Hydrate Krasis. It looks like the time's just slightly off there, but there we go. So it's going to be a 3/3 Krasis, which is a little unfortunate here if you're sitting in Ceviche's seat, as it doesn't cleanly block the Chain Whirler and also Dice Lightning Strike, as it turns out.
Right. He was looking to maybe get down a 3/3 Krasis before playing the Hadana's Climb to be able to flip that right away.
That makes sense, but it is not going to work out that way because these burn spells are doing good work. And a mountain off the top of the library now for Ken Yukuhiro means that he can deploy Experimental Frenzy. We'll see him put a stop on his turn. Eric, explain why he's doing that. You see the shock on top of the library there.
Right, he sets a stop on his upkeep, a shock on top of his library, because if he's able to go to his draw step, that shock's in his hand, which means Experimental Frenzy says you can't play with the cards in your hand. So if he casts it during his upkeep, he can cast all his instants, get them out of the way, maybe find a land or a card that he didn't care as much about casting, have that go into his hand and sit there while he can't actually, use it, and use all of his instants off the top of his library while he can.
Now, generally speaking, what you'll see is kind of a change of game plan here, where the Experimental Frenzy will change the red player's plan to being full board control. They'll just start using all their spells to keep the board clear because they feel like they have a flow of cards off the top of the library that they can use to kill their opponent at any point.
Yeah, I mean, Experimental Frenzy, to use like a chess reference, is putting your opponent in check. You got to make your move now because you're not going to have a lot more time, and now is the time. And Ceviche has definitely some quality plays he can make here. He's got Nexus of Fate to threaten to deal a bunch of damage, looking to maybe flip the Hadana's Climb shortly. What was the other card in his hand? He's got a Jade Light Ranger, so yeah, if he's able to hit a spell off the top of his library, potentially flip the Climb. The Incubation Druid is providing multiple mana.
Looks like he doesn't want the Llanowar Elves, and there's a second copy of Jadelight Ranger, which he's also declined. But as you mentioned, that does mean that Hadana's Climb could be online here. The Incubation Druid with the +1/+1 counter on it, even just one counter turns it into a mana creature ×3. So that means that he can fire this thing off right now. That's one of the cool combos that you can get with Hadana's Climb in this deck.
Right, and so it didn't really matter where Ceviche put the cards on top of his library because he's casting Nexus of Fate, so he's going to have a shuffle there.
This is getting interesting. Now he has Tamiyo.
Yeah, Tamiyo's a real threat.
It is, and we saw this last week. Plus Tamiyo naming Nexus of Fate can be very powerful effect, especially as the game goes longer. But there also might be things worth grabbing in the graveyard, though. No, it does look like a plus here.
Yeah, because the Hadana's Climb can flip if he puts a counter on one of his creatures that have multiple counters on it already, he actually is threatening to have 7 mana this turn. The Hadana's Climb could end the game next turn, right? Like this will give it flying and give it 10 power. This creature, he's got a blocker still with the Incubation Druid, a pretty big blocker, and threatening to win the game next turn. So now, yeah,
just a 2-turn clock from Hadana's Climb, becoming Winged Temple of Araska. Yeah, this is really impressive stuff here from Ceviche, who is all of a sudden turning the tables in a very effective way against Experimental Frenzy. And how in the world is Ken supposed to answer a 9 toughness creature or even a 4 toughness creature in his main deck? He doesn't have a ton. There's a Steamkin and a land and another land off the top of the library. Kent misses.
Yeah, he missed both turns, and Ceviche just didn't give him the time. I mean, this Simic Nexus deck not doing, what...
Jeez, game 1, too.
What your dad's Simic Nexus deck did, I guess. I mean, this is, definitely a deck looking to turn the corner. There's only one copy of Hadana's Climb that could really close that game out quickly, but he had it, and yeah, he ended it.
That was...
Hadana's Climb plus Nexus of Fate, just, yeah.
That was really impressive. It's just not common that you see the Simic Nexus deck able to turn the tables on mono red of all things and just race them. But that's exactly what he needed to do, given the fact that, as you said before, Experimental Frenzy put Ceviche in check. It's like, you must do something. And he said, well, this is the biggest something I can do. And it turns out that's all it took. Only a 1-turn window existed for Ken Yukuhiro after that.
He's like, okay, you have Experimental Frenzy? Well, I can kill you in 2 turns. Let's see if that's good enough.
Yeah.
And it's not, a lot of times it's not. Like, we've seen Experimental Frenzy win the game the next turn a lot of times, or certainly come close, or maybe clear the board or do similar. But
wow, another mulligan here, it looks like, for Ken Yukuhiro. Is he going to have to keep this 1-lander?
Yeah, I think so. Having the Firebrand plus light up the stage means that he's going to have a handful of looks at finding more land.
Look at that. The Arboreal Grazer is in the, in the deck here for Ceviche. He's got the All-Star.
Yeah, this is going to probably force Ken to sacrifice the Firebrand to do a point of damage just to turn on the light at the stage. If he's able to find a land, though, and he did, then the Runaway Steamkin, super good card in this matchup.
That's right.
But,
not a lot of good
does
answers.
have the answer in hand, though. He's got Entrancing Melody. So not this turn, but
it looks like he's got to decide between Jade Light Ranger and Hadana's Climb, and he's going right for the climb.
yeah, it's an interesting decision. I think I would have gone Jade Light Ranger.
Me too.
There.
I was thinking he wanted to try to find the lands if he could, but he's going to go for climb and try to turtle up behind this Grazer. It is a 1/4 now.
And it was a big blocker. I mean,
Ken is going to attack. This is a relatively free attack, right?
no, this is a great attack, and it's honestly, he can cast the shock now to just kill the Grazer and doesn't lose the Steamkin. And if Ken lets it through, he can cast Light Up the Stage for free. So this is just kind of a great place to be if you're Ken Yukuhiro.
That was a bit of a disaster. I mean, normally speaking, you'd think, oh, that's fine, right? You got your Grazer, you can just trade it off for kind of any card and you're fine. But the Hadana's Climb is now turned off with no targets, and he needs lands, and quickly he doesn't find one off the top of the library, but this Ranger could find him one.
Right, and it is another target. If it doesn't find land, it means that we can flip the Hadana's Climb right away and get a bunch of counters on it.
Okay.
Of course, Fanatical Firebrand being untapped turns off everything.
Wow. Kills it with no chance to get a single counter on it. Is this one falling away from Ceviche, perhaps being punished? Though, look at this. Another copy of Experimental Frenzy does no good here for Ken Yukuhiro. He's going to have to rely on Light Up the Stage to find him some lands.
Yeah, lands or action, honestly.
Yeah, he did. He did not find
He's
lands.
got Steamkin in hand. He can cast Frenzy right now.
Yeah, he's already got 3 red mana in his pool thanks to the Steamkin there.
He can also start with Light Up the Stage here, and a land would still allow him to cast Experimental Frenzy, or if he's able to find more 1-mana spells, potentially cast all of them and use the Steamkin again.
Yeah, he's trying to decide if it's worth it to risk it and be stuck potentially with only casting the Gitu Lava Runner, for example, if you hit land or something like that, or if it's better to just play the Experimental Frenzy when you know you have the window and then try to take over the game. But he's going to go for the Light Up the Stage. Seems reasonable.
And now he can do it all.
Look at this Fanatical Firebrand. He did find multiple 1-drops. In fact, all 3 cards exiled only cost him 1 mana at this point. So he's going to go with Firebrand. He's going to go with Gitu Lava Runner. He's going to use up 3 mana plus the untapped mountain and cast Experimental Frenzy. As you said a second ago, he can do it all. So worked out beautifully. There's a land finally for Ceviche. But what's his game plan now?
Yeah, nothing super exciting. Nissa comes down, it can flip Hadana's Climb and become a 4/4 creature, has Vigilance, so he can get in there kind of for free there. But down to 13 life, there's 4 creatures on the other side of the battlefield. You need to deal with the Steamkin, because Steamkin plus Frenzy, like, you rarely get to untap when that happens. So very, very risky to even give a single turn here, but there's also not all that much he can do. He can use the Entrancing Melody to just steal the Steamkin, but it's also tapped. So he's taking 5 damage just from the creatures in play. He knows about Wizard's Lightning. So how are you winning that game? I just don't see how it's possible.
Yeah, it just seems really tough from this point. You know, Ceviche really punished here.
Also to note, last turn off of the Explore, he binned the Thrashing Brontodon. So that was kind of his answer to Experimental Frenzy. No longer there.
Yeah, this is always a tough spot to be in if you're in Ceviche, because at this point, you know, you're kind of looking at your options, and it looks poor for you long game, and it also, your short-term propositions don't look great either, as you're not affecting the board directly, even after having stolen your opponent's creature. And now we get to see Experimental Frenzy do Experimental Frenzy things. So Ken can attack for these, use the Wizard's Lightning that's already exiled, and then set a stop on his upkeep so that he can fire off that other Wizard's Lightning. And there's just really no way out here for Ceviche at this point.
Yeah, there really is no way out at this point. There's just too much damage in play. Then off the top of the library, even if you're able to answer all the creatures in play, we're just looking at needing any burn spell in the deck before Ken dies, which could take a really long time. I mean, Nissa does end the game quickly, especially with Hadana's Climb. So it's not too many turns, but there's an Experimental Frenzy in play. It's a lot to ask for.
That's right. So you got to like what Ceviche is doing here. He got in for 4. He transformed his Hadana's Climb. He gets to cast the Jade Light Ranger thanks to the mana doubling from Nissa, but it's just all too little, too late at this point. During the upkeep, Ken is going to bring him down to 2, and he is Dobbs, as we say in the business, dead on board, and that is game number 2 going to Ken Yukuhiro. Now, does this matchup get better or worse for Ceviche after sideboards?
I mean, it gets better because he's taking out cards that are pretty bad, but the cards he's putting in are not amazing. So it definitely improves. Nexus of Fate it's just not good against the red decks. It costs 7 mana. And yes, getting to untap and using all your value planeswalkers again is nice, but cards like Tamiyo and Nissa don't live all that often. They tend to live when you are dying because your opponent has chosen to ignore them as opposed to because they couldn't deal with them. And so it usually means that you're pretty far on the back foot in this matchup.
Finally, Ken gets to keep an opener with 7 cards in it here. And is that true for Ceviche? No.
Yeah, Ceviche is on 6.
Yeah. So he's got the Llanowar Elves to kick things off, but as you can see in hand here, oh, interesting. There is a Chain Whirler off the top of the library, but is he going to just use the Firebrand this time to kill the Llanowar Elves?
Yeah, I think now that he has to wait multiple turns of allowing that extra mana to come into play, it makes a lot more sense to kill the Elves. Letting it get 1 use, although in Game 1 he didn't have the 3rd land in hand to necessarily cast the Chain Whirler, he was willing to take that risk, especially you know, with enough answers to some of the other potential threats that Ceviche could have cast before he got to 5 mana. And this is kind of the card you're most worried about.
There's land number 3 now for Ken Yukuhiro, and let's not forget, Yukihiro is currently on top of the leaderboard for his division, and a game win here. Yes, just winning this game would lock that up. William Huey Jensen won his 2 matches for the week to bring him even as far as records go, but Ken owns the tiebreaker between the two, so he controls his own destiny. All he has to do is get by Ceviche this 1 game, and he will take that bye at Mythic Championship 3 coming up in just a few weeks.
Right, and Ceviche, you know, has now missed the land drop multiple times. Can't even deploy the 3 mana spell in his hand. It's just a tough place to be.
Yeah, and Ken is going to continue to apply pressure here by killing the mana creatures with his burn spells and hitting in for a whopping 6 damage as well. He's going to cash in the Steamkin to cast the Chain Whirler. An instant rebate gets him the counter back because, of course, it's a red spell. And with another Chain Whirler in hand, does Ceviche have any options, or is it going to be Ken Yukuhiro taking down the division?
Yeah, Thrashing Rondodon's reasonable on this board. It's just he's already down to 8 life.
Make it 7 thanks to this Chain Whirler. He's just going to attack with everything with only 3 toughness, well, 4 toughness, but a damage on it for the Thrashing Brontodon. It doesn't even have good blocks against some of these 3/3s, only able to trade at best, so he's just going to go down to 1. And it looks like Ken Yukuhiro is going to be your Ruby Division winner because it doesn't seem like there's any way out for Ceviche at this point. This matchup seemed bad. He was able to steal game 1, but that does it. Ken Yukuhiro, congratulations.
Our very
you
first.
are our Ruby winner.
Yes, the first winner in one of these divisions. Was so exciting to see Ken Yukuhiro make it straight to that top 16.
Man, Huey made it tough for him.
He really did.
Yeah, he did everything he could this week. He put out multiple wins, some fantastic games.
6-1 he finished in the division and didn't win it. That is brutal. Like,
hard division to be in.
I mean, that's tough because it's hard to do much better than that against this caliber
I
of
think
player.
we're going to see at some point a division where there's someone at 6-0 and 2 more people at 5-1. So there have been some real tough divisions.
Unaware of that. So.
Oh my, interesting.
This
Well,
split has been crazy.
we do have these divisions to take a look at, so you can have the visual here of how Ken made it to the top. There's Jensen, of course, right behind, also with the 6-1 record. But if anyone's just joining, the tiebreaker there was how many individual games within the matches that the players won. And Stefan did pretty well for coming in later and just having a slight disadvantage of having 1 deck to play with throughout the weeks. Yanni Mikkonen with the Simic Nexus deck was a fun deck to watch play.
I mean, it was rough for
didn't do
both of
great.
them. 2-5 and 1-6, not exactly blazing down, but like you said, it's really tough to come into the lion's den that is the MPL and be like, well, here's your deck, good luck. You know, it's like there may be an adjustment period there for sure.
Yeah, that's like just a broomstick and pushed into that cage.
It's
Yeah.
tough, not an easy situation. Yeah.
No, not at
Whoa,
all.
whoa, easy.
That's a lion.
What is the?
That's the lion's
okay.
den.
All right.
Just painting the
Yeah,
picture,
it just-
being in the metaphor.
I got a visual. It was like, no.
Come on.
Kitty's
Is
got
it no?
claws or whatever people say. Yeah.
Paint them blue. All right. Well, also, we should mention that the Arena Mythic Championship is coming up in a couple weeks. This is what they've all been working for. This is what the split is all about, is giving those MPL players a chance to move straight to day 2. As you spelled it out for us, Eric, it is a huge deal to basically get a buy on
Yeah,
the
it's June
equivalent of 6
21
games,
through 23, but
matches.
not for all of these players.
For
example,
the Lucky
Ken.
4, it will be June 22.
yeah. Very much so. And that's
I mean,
just 2
top
weeks away.
16 is it's top 16. There's not very many people between you and the trophy, and that trophy comes with a nice prize pool attached to it. So.
Yeah, that's right. There's a $250,000 prize purse. So that's
3/4.
What did I say? Yeah,
You
the
said
3.
1/4.
There's a 3 pictured in my head. It was in the lion's den. I got a little melled up. Yeah,
With the other
$750,000. Yeah, and that's $100K for the top prize, I believe. For
I
comes
don't even
along with
allow
that
myself to
shiny
look.
trophy. Don't
Once
look.
they give it to me, I'll look. But until then, I on whatever the prize may be.
Put it with your other
do it for
collection
the trophy.
of big checks that you've got.
Oh yeah, all 0 of them. I'll line up.
All right, we're ready now. We're going to take you guys to our correspondent, Maria, who's going to tell you all about the rest of the Ruby standings and how those games went down. And then we're going to go to a short break, and then we have the Sapphire division for you. So let's check in with Maria.
Hey everybody, Maria here. It's been an exciting road to the top of the Ruby division throughout the Spark split. I've said it since week 1, the Ruby division is the best division, and now we've got the best champion, Ken Yukuhiro. Ken earned his victory by battling his way through some of the best in the biz, and often doing it with some unique decks. Week 1, Ken brought a cool brew, Bant Proliferate, featuring Vivian, Champion of Wilds, Huatli's Raptor, and, wait for it, 4 copies of Chamber Sentry. He's the only player in the MPL on this deck, and it is a wild one. Check out this innovative deck in action here versus Carlos Ramau, who's trying to get him with a Thought Erasure. Classic Esper control. But wait, Ken is able to flash in Huatli's Raptor, who adds a counter to Vivian and leaves nothing but a lonely Llanowar Elves to its fate. Ken wins this match, starting the split off 1-0 in style. Let's move ahead to week 2, where Ken brings Bant again, but this time it's a different flavor with God Eternal Oketra. Let's peek in on his match versus Lucas Esper Berthoud, where he had a brutal mulligan to 5. All hope might seem lost when Berthoud casts a Deputy of Detention here, stealing both of Ken's Llanowar Elves, but see those baffling ends in hand. Yes, they turn out to be very important indeed, and Ken's able to nab them back the next turn. He doesn't manage to win this match. Berthoud hands Ken his only loss this split. On to week 3. If you're thinking Ken's gotta be done bringing sweet decks by this week, you'd be wrong. He and his Japanese compatriots bring another awesome deck, Golgari Land Destruction, which has the potential to be supremely evil with its ability to wasteland opponents. Check out his match versus Reed Duke on Azorius Aggro. This game contains what is maybe my favorite play of the entire Ruby division here, this split. Here, Duke launches a big attack against Ken's Vraska, followed by a pretty impressive Venerated Loxodon to pump his whole team, supposedly putting him outside of the known card on top of Ken's deck, Massacre Girl. What he doesn't know is that Ken has Assassin's Trophy in hand with 2 open mana. Ken kills Reed's Benolosh Marshal at the end of the turn and then casts Massacre Girl on his next turn, killing 7 creatures and securing the game. People, Ken was playing Massacre Girl before Command the Dreadhorde decks even knew it was cool. Ken wins both his matches in week 3, improving his record to 4-1. Week 4 saw Ken taking a more traditional approach, bringing the deck everybody loves to hate, Mono Red. Let's take a moment to look in on his match versus Jessica Stefan and Dimir Control, which, while bad for Ken, was super sweet. Jess had been low on life for several turns, but has managed to hang on, eventually resolving an Ugin and, that's right, running Ken out of cards in his deck. Ken eventually concedes when he knows he'll deck himself the next turn. Unbelievable. He does go on to win this match, and his other this week versus Ben Stark to rocket to 6-1 heading into the final week. Here in week 5, we just saw this match, so I'll just point out my favorite play from game 2 so we can all relive its awesomeness. Here, Ken really showcases the power of Runaway Steamkin and its BFF for life, Experimental Frenzy. It's either beautiful or disgusting depending on how you look at it, but everyone has to admit this chain of spells is really, really sweet. So there you have it, Ken Yukuhiro takes down the best division, the Ruby division, earning himself an auto top 16 at the Arena Mythic Championship coming up later this month in Vegas. Congratulations to Ken, who will hopefully continue to bring awesome brews to the MPL.